Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and Chag Sameach Pesach. This is Rabbi Shmuel with a very large yarmulke on, so you can see it. I don't want there to be any, I love your cards and I love your feedback, but, okay. Um, Hope you're doing well. Um, we've been having some pretty good events at the synagogue. We've getting kids involved, and I just kind of want to mention that, Lador Vador. And we pass what we learn, what we do onto our children. In fact, when we talk about the commandment to honor your father and your mother, and we have commandments about respecting elders, you know, um, basically when somebody teaches kids Torah, they become like a parent to them because they are fulfilling the obligation of a parent, not instead of. I want to make that clear, but it's kind of an additional role model, if you will. And a lot of us take that very, very seriously. We want to impart Torah onto the kids. We want to give them appreciation of what Judaism is all about. My own personal feeling is that halacha is very important. We need to be shomer Shabbat. We need to, guard the Shabbat and keep Shabbat as much as we can. Stay away from foods that, we should be staying away from. Favor. I'm going to use the word favor foods that are sanctioned in the Torah. The meat, mammals, it's cloven hoof, and it's chewing their cud, and the hoof has to be cloven all the way through. Stay away from shellfish, birds, things like that. I know that it's kind of tough in this world, especially with the advent of suburbia, where people have spread out. We don't all live in an urban area where we can congregate around a synagogue, where we can walk easily on Shabbat. But it's important that we do what we can do. The tradition is very important. Making sure you have a mezuzah on your doorpost so you're reminded. Okay, I'm not asking everybody to wear talit katan and constantly gazing at your tzitzit. And by the way, the word tzitzit, it comes from the word to gaze on. But again, let's practice Jewish principles, honor the stranger, et cetera, et cetera. Now, honoring the stranger is a very important commandment. And it is so important, especially now because we are approaching Passover. Now, at our synagogue, I'm going to be doing all the services, all the major services, which means the first day of Passover, the second day of Passover. We'll, of course, be doing the intermediate Shabbat, and congratulations to Shoshana Bronte on your bat mitzvah. It's wonderful to have you there, have your whole family back with us, and to have you come up on such a great day. And then we'll be doing the seventh day of Passover on Monday, and the eighth day, which is also Yizkor, on Tuesday. And yes, I will be Zooming those services. Of course, we prefer you come. That's kind of important. We want to make a minyan. That's actually a mitzvah. And a lot of you are aware of the fact that even though some movements decided that turning the key in a car and ignition is creating a spark, which is basically lighting a fire so we don't get in a car and drive. On Shabbat, the conservative movement has basically given us dispensation, a sanction that yes, you can drive on Shabbat if you go directly to the synagogue and then turn around and come back when you're done, because it's more important to participate in a minyan. Okay. So, and of course, if you can't make it, you can't make it. I mean, that's just reality. So thankfully, we have technology that allows everybody to get involved. Okay. So, as you might guess, the themes of the Passover Torah readings involve three things. Okay. Number one, it is the freedom from slavery. And hand in hand with that is the idea that we are now not just a people, not just a nation, but we have principles, we have ethics, we have this whole religious system that we are having. And it's the birth of the nation of Israel in every way, shape, and form, in terms of how we worship, how we behave, our social structure, our ethics, our morality, all of that. It starts now when Moses takes us out of Egypt. Now, of course, there had been some admonitions against paganry and idolatry, also in terms of the way we treat people, but now it becomes really codified. Now it becomes an actual deed, if you will, an actual treatise. And that's one of the readings. The second thing, and I kind of alluded to this, is the idea that there is one God. And we'll get into that reading in a minute. There is one God. We do not worship, right? Like we say on the Torah service, we do not admire any mortals, nor on any angelic being do we rely, right? Our trust and faith is in Hashem, the one true God, and God's Torah. Another theme is the idea of the firstborn. So the firstborn is sacred to Hashem because God spared us, humans, and also the animals. The firstborn of an animal is given up to the Kohanim and the Levites and the ministers in order to be an offering to God as a way of saying thank you. And of course, from there, we also get the Pidyon HaBrit, which is the redeeming of the firstborn. So when you have a firstborn son, that's a big deal. That's a special occasion. You redeem that firstborn son from the priests. Why the son and not the daughter? Well, you're going back to a very old ancient tradition where gender identity was very, very demarcated. It was very evident. You know, the men being the physically stronger of the human species went out and did a lot of the labor. The woman being the more emotionally strong would stay home and care for the kids in the house and impart moral and social values to the kids. Okay, so everybody kind of had their place. These days, it's not so specific because thanks to technology, we're able to dispense with a lot of the types of roles that we had, traditionally. Okay, so the Shabbat reading is Moses, kind of a redo, if you will, of Moses getting another set of 10 commandments. Remember, Moses came down from the mountain and he was greeted by a golden calf, an egel masechet, a molten calf, a calf that was basically an idol. I don't care what you want to say. I don't care if they said, this is your God. This is instead of Moses to lead you into the desert, to lead you into the promised land. An idol's an idol. And Moses, in his anger and in his being upset, threw the tablets on the ground. They broke. There were some consequences, and now he's coming back up for a second set. And he's pleading with God. He's saying, please forgive us, for what they did. All right, they were stupid. We took care of those people. And I think the rest of them learned their lesson. And God said, okay. And Moses says, well, we want to make sure that it's you that follows us around the wilderness, not one of your angels. We want to go to the top. And God's like, okay. And Moses said, and how will we know you? How do we know you? And God basically says, you will know me by my attributes. After I show you the back of my head. Moses wanted to see God, and God said, you cannot see my face and live. No mortal human can. So you hide in the cleft of the rock. I will pass by, and you will see the back of my head. The art scroll, Chumash says that basically God showed Moses the knot of the tefillin in the back of his head. Okay, all right, okay, that's cool. And then God went through his 13 attributes, Hashem, Nai, El, Rachum, V'chanun, Erech Apayim, Chesed, Rav Chesed, L'Rofim. So, merciful and for God, the two gods. I'm your God before you sin. I'm your God after you sin. When you ask forgiveness, merciful and forgiving iniquity onto the thousandth generation, but holding, the third and fourth generation accountable. Why? Well, because the apple doesn't fall real far from the tree. If you grow up in a dysfunctional household where the morals are all messed up, that's what you're going to learn. And it may take a few generations to get over that. And that's why. It's not that anybody's punishing you for what, your parents or grandparents may have done. Case in point, Korach, right? Korach, as we learn in Numbers, leads a rebellion, yet his sons were very dedicated Levites. They wrote Psalms. Their Psalms, I think it was 45 to 49, and it are theirs. And in fact, Psalm 48 is the Psalm for Monday, Yom Sheni. So there it is. Okay. So Moses comes down with the second set of commandments, second set of 10 commandments, his face is shining, et cetera, et cetera. So the other readings basically involve the other themes. Okay, we have the idea of dedicating the firstborn, the idea that when you have a donkey, of course, is a non-edible mammal, but a donkey is a very good work animal. So, when you get the firstborn of a donkey, it's basically traded for an animal that we can offer, that type of thing. So, and then there's also the beginning of months. That's another theme. And that's what the theme is, that when everybody leaves Egypt, God says, this is the beginning of your year. Now, we say it's the beginning of spring, the month of Abib, which translates to spring. It's now known as the month of Nisan. But basically, this was the beginning of the year. Now you say, wait a minute, what about Rosh Hashanah? That's the 7th month. That's the spiritual new year. This is the secular new year. This is the time of the year when we became a people. That's why we start our new year there. We don't count the years or count the new year until it's Rosh Hashanah. Okay? See you in services. Any questions, let me know. Meanwhile, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, and as always, thank you for listening. And there's the Yom.